you for sponsoring our show. Next, we have the Dave Wade Studio of Dance and Social Arts. Have you ever thought about learning to dance? This is a wonderful place. And, you don't even need to have a partner. And don't worry if you have two left feet, because they have a two left feet class, which is a wonderful place to go. Dave is a great teacher, and we have a world champion teacher also with the advanced class. William, he's wonderful. So thank you to the Dave Wade Studio of Dance and Social Arts. Last but not least, Kathy Cotton Stocking Realty. Do you need a realtor? She is your go-to gal. She is very professional. She's a wonderful person, very easy to work with, and she will take great care of you. So if you need a realtor, go to Kathy Cotton Stocking Realty. Thank you so much for sponsoring us, Kathy. And she loves history, right, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely, she does. Call Kathy.
Yes, she knows about historical buildings and things. So she would be a great realtor for you. And that was Bob Grenier. He is the vice mayor of Tavares, and he just won his election to stay on the Tavares Council.
So no
congratulations.
Yeah, nobody filed, and so I'm running on a post. So
you got to sail back in, which is wonderful.
It's a relief, let me tell you.
Yeah, and for the city of Tavares, what a blessing, because you have done some wonderful things for them.
Kelly.
And so we're glad to have Bob Grenier on the show. And we have a wonderful guest today. We have Matt Wilcox. He is a filmmaker. And Matt, I'm so excited to have you, and welcome on the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
Great. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess I wear a few hats. I do work for the Hernando County school system, but my side job, if you will, is to make films in history. So my background is history. I went to school for that. I have an undergrad in history and religious studies, and of course I have a master's in World War II studies in history. So
where are you from? Tell us about those early years.
Sure. So I was born in Brooksville, just down State Road 50, not too far from here, and grew up in Brooksville, grew up in Spring Hill in Hernando County, and have always been in Florida, love Florida.
So you are a native.
I am indeed. So
how many generations do you know?
Well, that's an interesting story. Actually, I guess I would be the first Floridian. My parents were from up north, so my mother's from New York and my dad's from Connecticut.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about growing up in
Absolutely. Well,
Brooksville area.
Brooksville's a beautiful town. Hernando County is a beautiful place, and I only say that in addition to every other county I've been to, which is just absolutely phenomenal. But what I love about Hernando is that you have the beach, you have the Gulf, you also have the rolling hills of downtown Brooksville.
Yes.
So you have kind of this dichotomy. It's so beautiful. But you have that here in Lake County, you have it here in Leesburg. You have the lakes and you have the hills. Sometimes I get lost in Claremont thinking I'm in up north someplace. And so, the mountains are so tall.
There is something strange about Brooksville that I learned doing reenactments there. It gets colder there than it does in Leesburg, even though it's south of Leesburg. I don't know why, but it would get down to 19 degrees. And I call my mom and she'd say, "Oh, it's only 30 here." And I'm like,
That's true. That's true. I did do Civil War reenacting, so I spent a few nights out in those tents. And yes, it gets a bit chilly out there now.
Very cool. Me too. I did 30 years of that. So.
That's great. Awesome.
Where'd you go to school?
Well, so there's the second school to come to Hernando County was Springstead. My father was able to work there. Actually, halfway through the first year, 1976 it opened. It's 50th anniversary this year. But he came in 77. I went to school there, graduated there, and then was fortunate enough to go to University of South Florida. And then I went to Arizona State for my grad. So yeah, I've enjoyed Hernando County education, Florida education. And being able to spread that across the United States too.
So where did you get your love for history?
So my father was a history teacher.
Oh,
and
okay.
Of course, as a young boy, I guess we'd be watching the movie Gettysburg or, Glory or anything like that. And going everywhere all over the United States to see battlefields or other areas of interest, especially in Florida. It's good to have good parents who take you places, weekend day trips.
Other than Disney.
Yeah, Disney's good too, but
but other than Disney.
I grew up the same way. My dad was taking us to battlefield, watching movies along the way that had to do with war. And I remember he said, "We're going to one called Star Wars." And I thought, oh no, not another war movie. Boy, was that fun.
That's a classic now.
But yeah, it's really great when you have that background and they tell you the stories, because that's what makes it come alive for people.
Yeah.
So then you came to Lake County, because I met you working for Lake County.
Yes. So I was very fortunate, privileged to be able to be a videographer for Lake County government, and met a lot of great people, including you, sir. But I was videotaping all up and down Lake County, getting drone shots, getting anything that we could use to market or to help out Lake County, show what beauty is here. And all I had to do was push record, because the rest of it's in front of the lens. Very nice place.
Well, you're a licensed drone operator, and I have to laugh because twice, he was there and he was demonstrating the drone for me, and he let me fly this thing. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's all I need is to crash this beautiful, I'm sure high-priced drone. But tell us about becoming a licensed drone operator.
Well, you have to get your Part 107 license through the FAA. That's a test that you'd have to take at a testing center, usually at an airport. You have to know your aeronautical maps and things of that nature, so you know weather patterns, and you know how to fly near certain places, especially airports, what classes they would be depending on the category they are, and of course to make sure that you're safe with a drone. Drones can take off sometimes. They can be a little dangerous, so you have to be careful with them. But if you use them right, if you use them carefully, I was in good hands with you, sir.
Thank you.
That you can have beautiful shots, and it really shows something different. We all wish we had wings and we could fly up and see our towns from 200 feet in the air. Well, with the drone, you can do that. You can see things in just a different light. So it's really a nice opportunity.
And it plays in very well with your films now. At Wilcox Films, tell us about getting into filmmaking.
Sure. So, having the background in history, enjoying stories. I mean, one of the word story is in history, right? And when I was young, I was in 8th grade, I wanted to get into film in high school. So I wanted to learn how to do, short films about history. I think a lot of people like to do that now on YouTube. But I just kept with it. And of course, I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself a lot of aspects of filmmaking, and also how to put things together that would be more concise to telling a story. Obviously, history would be right there, and combining the two to be using documentaries that show the truth, show what happened, and having the story that is compelling, that is entertaining, but also educational. These are very, very important things. I look up to him in appreciation, and Ken Burns is one of those gentlemen out there that has done a great job of being able to combine history and filmmaking into an art that really, I think, shows our past in a different light. So I always wanted to have filmmaking and understand the technical aspects of that, so we could bring it into the storytelling aspects. And it's taken a few years, but I think I've gotten there. So.
So what are some of the projects of the films that you're into, you're completed already, or some of the stories you would like to tell out there? And tell us about location shooting as well.
Sure. So, funny enough, my first ever film award was in Leesburg in 2020. I did a very short film about World War II, and they had a B-17 at the airport, so I was able to do that. But my films since then have been feature films, full length. One is on PBS right now. It's called Manchu, A Brotherhood of Sacrifice. And that is a film about the Vietnam War. Specifically, and interestingly enough, one of the gentlemen in that film was from my high school. So I was able to interview him as a source, and then found a lot of his colleagues all around the country that were with him in Vietnam.
Very interesting. Well, we got to take a break, but we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
day, Mid-Florida.
Isn't that Central Florida and beyond?
Yes, let me introduce myself. I'm Kathy Cotton Stocking, broker owner of Cotton Stocking Realty, LLC. In the year 2525. Yes, Evan?
It's 2025.
Oh, whatever. Whether you're considering a real estate transaction or simply a question or misconception about today's market, Cotton Stocking Realty provides 50 plus years of experience.
Tell them you're a second generation Floridian.
Yes, of course. Join me in standing for the preservation of the environment and historical appreciation for the Florida that we all love.
Call or text Kathy Cotton Stocking Realty at 352-530-6618, 530-6618.
When asked if you can dance, how many times have you thought or even said, I can't. I have two left feet. Well, Dave Wade's studio has a cure for that. Go and join them to find out how easy it is to dance with someone you love or participate on your own. Now's the time to take advantage of a special offer they have at the Dave Wade studio. For new students only, 4 group classes for only $19. Located in Fruitland Park at 2468 US Highway 441, Suite number 203. Call 352-531-1598 to book your first lesson. That's 352-531-1598.
MBB Appliance is family owned and operated and has been serving Lake Marion and Sumter counties since 1984, offering sales and service of all appliances with great customer service. Now with 2 locations to serve you better, Ocala and Leesburg. Stop in and browse the showroom and ask about free delivery. Check out the selection of scratch and dent appliances as well. Did you know MBB is a certified Whirlpool dealer, selling brand new Whirlpool appliances still in the box? Did you know MBB is a self-servicer of Whirlpool appliances? From time to time, MBB Appliance even has some refurbished appliances at a discounted price as well. Stop in today or call 352-816-1544. That's 816-1544, and let MBB Appliance leave you better than they found you.
Lake Montessori is a private school located right in downtown Leesburg at 415 Lee Street. Classes are for primary age through high school. VPK is also available and scholarships are accepted. At Lake Montessori, we believe in the potential of every child and are committed to providing an environment where they can blossom into confident, compassionate individuals. And students receive a world-class education in a happy and caring environment with wonderful teachers. Call today to enroll your students at 352-787-5333. That's 352-787-5333. Or go to their website at lakemontessori.org.
Ichiban Buffet here in Leesburg is serving up some really good food. If you have a taste for American food, Chinese food, or even Japanese food, everything is fresh and delicious. From the sushi bar to the hibachi grill, where you can pick up anything you want, and they will cook it right before your eyes. Make sure you grab some dessert before you leave, because if you leave hungry, it's your fault. Ichiban Buffet, right in front of the Lake Square Mall. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. 352-728-6669. That's 728-6669.
Hey Josh, did you know that in the 1920s and 30s, Calvin Coolidge and his wife frequently visited Mount Dora?
Did you know about the catacombs?
Catacombs?
Yeah, a secret bomb shelter built by 25 prominent Mount Dora families during the Cold War.
Wow.
The largest private bomb shelter in the country.
Mount Dora is a fascinating American town.
So folks, if you're touring downtown, be sure to stop by Golden Art Jewelers.
Home of the free watch battery, installed for free. Visit Golden Art Jewelers in fascinating Mount Dora.
And I'm proud to be an American. We're released on free.
Hi, this is Lee Greenwood, and you're listening to the voice of Lake County in Leesburg, WQBQ.
And welcome back to Happenings in History with Kelly. And we have filmmaker Matt Wilcox in the studio. I just want to remind everybody that if you would like to ask a question, make a comment, call in at 352-315-1410. And don't be afraid to interrupt us. We would love for you to call in. It'll be fine. So if you would like to, 352-315-1410. All right, Nat, you were telling us about Vietnam.
Yes.
And
So the film that these films take about 5 years. That's the average to get them in my capacity to get them from start to finish. And this one took a little longer because my high school shop teacher is a gentleman named Steve Moulton, and he was with this group called the Manchus, the 4th Battalion, 9th Infantry, 25th ID in Vietnam. So he had photos, he had film, he had his story, right? And I was able to take the photos and obviously make them digital, but also take his film, 8mm, and transfer it over to digital. So when you watch that film, you're watching not just stock footage, you're watching his footage, you're watching what he took, what he saw, and you're able to get a whole different appreciation and perspective. The other interesting thing, when I went on my high school trip, of course, in 12th grade, I won't say too long ago, but I was able to go to the Vietnam War Memorial in DC, and there's a few names on that wall that are in my film because it's close. It's what happened, and we're able to honor those men that did fall in 68, 69, 1970 as well. And in order to make it just a much more comprehensive film, to make it more exciting, I was able to contract with a Vietnamese veteran. He actually fought the Chinese in 1979. Interesting dude. And we would talk over Facebook. Sometimes had to translate it, but I would tell him what shots I needed to get. I looked at the primary documents that the veterans had for this project. I'd look at their maps and I'd see where the locations were for field operations, and I was able to get coordinates. So I sent those over to the gentleman in Vietnam, and he was able to get 4K video as I watched him do it of those specific areas.
oh, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So it's not just a film about a historical 8mm grainy film. It's actually showing you where the American soldiers were in Vietnam, in the Tay Ninh province of western South Vietnam. So all of that to be said, when we combined it together, I was able to get about 11 veterans on camera. And a lot of these gentlemen, my teacher had not seen since 1969 when he came home. So we had a reunion in Panama City, Florida, and he met his captain after 50 years. And we were able to have the captain in the documentary and hug him. And it was kind of a cool reunion, not just for the film being made to talk about the history, but also, half a century later, you get to actually see the guys that you were next to half the world away. So it was really a great event. But yes, we will be showing that film throughout Florida as well. I'd like to go into some older movie theaters and doing that. But it was picked up by PBS and broadcast in several states, and there are a few local community theaters that are showing it throughout the country too.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very exciting. What about this one right now that you're promoting?
Absolutely. So, coming on September 12th in downtown Leesburg at the Tropic Theater, historic Tropic Theater, I am releasing my new film, Greetings from Florida, from Matt Wilcox film. And it is about an hour and 39 minutes. It's just enough time, but it uses original postcards from the years 1900 to 1960 to describe the history of Florida. And fascinating stuff, because a postcard says so much. It said there's certain things it doesn't say too. And that said, I had to go and went around the state interviewing different historians. We had some very scholarly individuals, people that also work at local or regional historical museums or areas, such as lighthouses, and we were able to incorporate them into the film. So it's a really interesting telling of our history.
How much of Florida is represented in this film?
Yes, so it's all of Florida. I went from Pensacola to Boca Raton, and of course we have postcards from Key West and everything in between. The thing that's hard is that it's an hour and 39 minutes. I talk about 60 years of history. There's no way we're able to cover all of that history in that amount of time or with the amount of postcards. But I covered the specific things that we needed to talk about to carry the history, things that people may not know about that are very interesting to why we are who we are today. And that carries through as postcards would go. I say that because 100 years ago, a postcard was the social media of the day. And if you wanted to send a message, you'd write a message on the back of a piece of cardboard and you'd send it through the mail. And we still have those messages. And I had a voiceover actor for different cards put those to life. So you actually get to hear a little personal piece of history from these cards in this film. It's really cool.
How did you select these postcards to be in this? Now, this is going to range from 1900 to 1960, I believe you said. So kind of the turn of the century to retro era, what you call a retro. But how did you select these postcards?
Sure. So really, I didn't look at it as a postcard-driven storyboard. I looked at it more as a Florida history storyboard, and then we used postcards to describe that history. So it really follows what's happening here in those years of Florida, and then we were able to use the postcards to cover that. Now, that said, postcards are hard. 1900, 1905, there were a lot of postcards of palm trees or, say, a dusty old road. And this was something interesting to look at in 1905. But you can see the change of that as the generations go by. That was also the time that they call it the golden age of postcards. Really, the late 1800s into the early 1900s is when postcards became really popular. And a lot of people like to think I'm a postcard fanatic. I never really thought too much about them. I thought they were cool. I saw them in antique shops, and I said, this would make a really great story because it is history, but it's a unique history. It's not the typical textbook style, documentary you see. This is actually a thing that talks about history from somebody's personal lived experience as well as a collective based on that image. So it's a very interesting, storyboard.
What other bonuses are you going to have at the Tropic Theater on Saturday, September 12th, besides the film?
Absolutely. So not only do you get to see a premiere of never-before-seen film, but we also are going to have some people recreating portions of decades in the film. So we have some World War II reenactors coming out. You get to have your photo taken in front of a step and repeat. That's one of those back screen stands that you can get your picture in. It's going to be a postcard. There'll also be a little gift that you can maybe put in the mail and send to somebody. I won't say what that is.
Very fun.
Kind of fits the motif. So, yes.
Very nice. I know I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got our tickets already for it.
Yeah, we sure do.
So tell people how to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we teamed up. I teamed up with the Melon Patch Theater. They have been amazing. Absolute great cooperation. And what I do is I have a link on my website, which is mattwilcoxfilms.com. If you go on there, you'll see a big banner. It says greetings from Florida, and right below there it says tickets. Click on that. You get to select your seat. We will have two showings. One will be at 2 p.m. The other will be at 7 p.m. And seats are filling up quickly. They are only $15 each. Now, there is a $2.50 charge for credit cards or anything like that online. We will have sales day of if you decide to do that. But if you are a military first responder, an educator, or a student, there's a discount. It's only $12 each. So I do encourage people to come out, see this. It really is an interesting, exciting event. And I think it's something new. I don't want to say it's novel, but it really is a ground-up approach to things. We're showing history. We're showing entertainment. We're trying to build up the economics. And I call that the 3 E's in my business plan. It is education, entertainment, and economy. So
that's our theme for Rifles, Rails, and History from way back. Thanks for resurrecting that.
Oh, that's great.
It is. Thank you, Matt.
Well, I mean, it's a simple idea, right? We're not reinventing the wheel here, but what we are doing is that we're making it into something that is new. Seeing a documentary that talks about something new. Even if you know some of Florida history, you may not know everything. And there's a lot of things here in Lake County that are on this in this project, because there's a lot of history here in Leesburg, Lake County, Howie in the Hills. We talk about that, So there's a lot of pieces here that are very local. Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm so excited.
Now you're also getting into Seminole history as well, aren't you, with filmmaking?
Yes. So I'm in production right now on a film about the Second Seminole War, which was the longest war against Native Americans in U.S. history. And it lasts, according to Congress, about 7 years. Now, if you talk to the Native Americans here in Florida, it was half a century. and it's still being fought in certain ways. And that's why when we dive into these stories, we're not diving into it to talk about something that happened long ago, but we're talking about its impact long ago and today. And what does it mean? How does it impact us today? And what does it teach us, right? I mean, if history doesn't teach us anything, I don't know why we study it. So the Second Seminole War specifically was the bloodiest and, again, most costliest Native American war in U.S. history. We like to think about, dare I say, cowboys and Indians out west as an old 1950s motif, right? But not necessarily true here in Florida. And there's a lot of history to this film that I think people will be very fascinated to learn. So,
Matt, we just found out we have a caller on the phone.
fantastic.
Actually, they texted in and wanted to know if there is a senior discount on tickets.
Well, we don't have a senior discount at the moment. However, if you are in that category of military first responder or educator or student, and we can talk about that going back into your history, I'd be happy to talk to you. So,
Okay.
So continue with the Seminole. So how are you producing this? Where are you going? Who are the people you're talking to? What location sites? Things like that.
yes. So we talked earlier. I'm from Brooksville, and a long time ago, before Brooksville was Brooksville, there was a gathering of what we would consider Seminole, really Creek, Miccosukee, Muskogee. Seminole, forgive me for broadening the answer here. Seminole is a gathering of different Native tribes. So it's very difficult to say the Seminole tribe because it's really talking about a lot of groups that kind of try to get away from American expansionism in the 1820s, 30s, and 40s. So we're going all around the state of Florida to historic battle sites, historic natural sites that may have had certain towns or things of this nature of the Seminole, which do not have a traditional European style of history writing. So we have a lot of the American experience, but we don't have the Seminole as much, other than from the writings of American soldiers at the time, or politicians, or government officials. So in Brooksville, just outside of there, there was the largest gathering of Seminoles in a place called Chocachati. And there are about 100 ways to spell that word, and there are about 100 ways to say it. Speaking with the Miccosukee, it is Chocachati. And that was a town that different towns across the state were called red towns or white towns, depending on if they were warriors or women and children, kind of that settlement. And Chocachati, it translates loosely to red town, or the town of warriors, that kind of thing. And if you look at the histories that happen in Bushnell, or what is modern day Bushnell, where Major Dade was attacked and 100 soldiers were killed on the way up from Fort Brooke in Tampa, that happens in that area, and we call it the Cove of the Withlacoochee River. Fascinating stories happen, and a lot of people don't know that history because it's first of all, the American military was not put in its best light because of its command, because of the nature of what happened. And of course, it is Native Americans at that time that didn't want to the American public did not want to give them credit at first for being, an adversary, as they were. But really, there was only about 5,000 Seminole warriors that would eventually fight upwards 35,000, 40,000 American regular troops. And at this time, 1835 is when the war begins. But, you got to think about what's going on at that time. A year later, not even, the Alamo would be attacked by Mexican troops. So a lot of history books talk about the Alamo, but we don't talk about what's happening here in Florida. And in a lot of Lake County, and every county in Florida has a connection to the Seminole War, or the Seminole Wars, I should say. There's 3 of them technically. So yeah, it's going to be a very encompassing documentary that tells that history.
Oh, exciting. All right, we're going to take our final break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back with Matt Wilcox.
Let me tell you about 3 nostalgic radio programs produced by veteran broadcaster Larry King. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's From Stateside. This is From Stateside, and I'm Jay Lawrence. From Stateside is a fascinating time capsule of life in the United States during the 1940s.
The memories are here.
Tuesdays at 6, it's Music and Memories when you step back into the 1950s with songs and stories that define an unforgettable era of music and pop culture. And Thursday night at 6,
The Rock and Roll Radio Reunion with Larry King.
takes a knockin' and keeps on rockin'. That's weeknights, Monday through Friday at 6, right here on the Q.
Many of us have four-legged fur babies, and from time to time, we need a veterinarian that we can trust to love and take really good care of them. Perfect Paws and Claws Veterinarian Hospital is a premier veterinarian center offering general wellness, vaccines, x-rays, blood work, dental radiology, and complete dental care, as well as state-of-the-art surgery center. Stop in and meet the great folks at Perfect Paws and Claws Veterinarian Hospital at 33025 Professional Drive, Leesburg, or call 352-901-6142. That's 901-6142.
When asked if you can dance, how many times have you thought or even said, I can't. I have 2 left feet. Well, Dave Wade's studio has a cure for that. Go and join them to find out how easy it is to dance with someone you love or participate on your own. Now's the time to take advantage of a special offer they have at the Dave Wade studio. For new students only, 4 group classes for only $19. Located in Fruitland Park at 2468 US Highway 441, Suite number 203. Call 352-531-1598 to book your first lesson. That's 352-531-1598.
Good day, Mid-Florida.
Isn't that Central Florida and beyond?
Yes, let me introduce myself. I'm Kathy Cotton Stocking, broker owner of Cotton Stocking Realty, LLC. In the year 2525. Yes, Evan?
It's 2025.
Whatever. Whether considering a real estate transaction or simply a question or misconception about today's market, Cotton Stocking Realty provides 50 plus years of experience.
Tell them you're second-generation Floridian.
Yes, of course. Join me in standing for the preservation of the environment and historical appreciation for the Florida that we all love.
Call or text Kathy Cotton Stocking Realty at 352-530-6618, 530-6618.
Lake Montessori is a private school located right in downtown Leesburg at 415 Lee Street. Classes are for primary age through high school. VPK is also available and scholarships are accepted. At Lake Montessori, we believe in the potential of every child and are committed to providing an environment where they can blossom into confident, compassionate individuals. And students receive a world-class education in a happy and caring environment with wonderful teachers. Call today to enroll your students at 352-787-5333. That's 352-787-5333. Or go to their website at lakemontessori.org. And we're back with Happenings in History with Kelly. And I just want to remind everybody you can call in 352-315-1410 if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question. And Matt, we were just talking about the Seminole Wars. And we've been learning all kinds of things.
All sorts of fun stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I decided to go down the pathway of making a documentary on that subject, because it is such a diverse history and it is such an interesting history. I say that because Florida in 1835 was a very new territory. A lot of people coming down from specifically South Carolina. They wanted Florida to be almost a second South Carolina. We'll see that later in the Civil War and how that develops. But nonetheless, during the Seminole War, a lot of bigger, well-known people, Richard Cole, yes, Richard Cole, up in Tallahassee, he came down. He was a friend of Jackson, President Jackson at the time. And when things didn't go well at the beginning of the war, he called on his friend to come down here, which was Governor Cole, and he would try to squash the uprising, if you will, or the attacks by natives, and it turned into a military disaster, which leads to other things because his wife is in Tallahassee, and interesting story that goes there, but she actually would succumb to a mosquito bite. She died of I believe it was malaria of some sort. So that was also a very common thing that happened here. And this is tragic, but we don't talk about the war because of how difficult it was to fight. Now, if you go around Florida, you'll see Fort Myers, Fort this, Fort that, Fort Drum, Fort Hood, all these things. And there's even a Fort Crane named for Ichabod Crane, who actually is the character in Sleepy Hollow. But he was in the military and came here to Florida for just a little bit, but they named the fort after him. And the reason for that is that we had a general who would finally come down to Florida and try to mop up the ineptness of other generals, and his name was General Jessup. We have Lake Jessup in Florida, and he would come down and build these forts. And his idea was every few miles have a fort. You can have supplies there. You can have American citizens who can settle in the future there. You can have obviously the military, so they can start pushing down the natives into what would become, well, where they are now in the Everglades. And basically towards the end of the war in 1842, what we consider the end of the war, most native tribes would be in the Everglades because it was a protectorate of just the land. It was able to be hidden from the U.S. military. And from that perspective, it's fascinating. But understanding that Florida really develops because of this war, the names that we have, the places that we have, the towns that we have today, a lot of them are there because they were just small forts that were developed during this war. And of course, now they might be large cities. So
that's very cool.
Tell us about some of the production and that you've done so far. Where, who?
Absolutely. So I've gone around different historians. I have quite a few more I need to hit as academics, but also authors and people like this. I did go down to the Miccosukee tribe in the Everglades. It's quite a drive from Fernando County. And, the Everglades is an interesting place. It's quite beautiful down there. But I was able to interview Popeye Osceola. He's the secretary of the Miccosukee, and fascinating tales. He's also in Greetings from Florida because we talked about postcards as well. And so I always try to double up if I can on projects, but he fascinating tales that are oral histories that are carried through. The problem with oral histories, though, is that you can only take them so far. You have to have the academic written down proof to say what happened. Mm-hmm. And as I discovered with the Vietnam Project, a lot of things that were written down were not factual. Sometimes people didn't write about things, or sometimes they wrote too much about things that didn't happen. But time and place changes things, and that's part of the histories that we have to understand too. Bias is a very alive thing, and we have to interpret that into filmmaking. So yeah,
very cool, very cool. So do you have a time frame when you think that is going to come out? Or
so my approximate is about 5 years, give or take, of each project. I'm trying to push this one a little faster, but probably in about 3.5 years from now.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned for that.
That'd be great.
Okay, now, Matt, you're a young man. I'm 68 years old right now, okay? So
we'll get it up there. Don't worry. But you're a young man, too, so don't worry.
Thank you. So you got this newsletter here that you're sending out. This is
Yes.
August, your first one here?
Well, we started in July, August, yes. And we try to keep people updated. If they want to go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, find out what we're doing. Sounds a little arrogant, I guess, to put my name on it, but that way you know who I am and where we're going.
Oh, no, I love that stuff. So you have here stories that didn't make it into the films.
Yes.
What are some of the stories? And will they eventually be in a film, or should they? I mean, why would they be scrapped if they are
absolutely
historically important?
So everything, I think, is historically important. That's the problem with having a history-minded person looking at a documentary, right? But then you have to look at the broadcasters, and you have to see the time elements that we have to have, or how much time somebody would like to sit in a seat for. So we have to do the theatrical cut, right? Have the thing that would be within the time frame that we will allow ourselves to be in a theater. But we also have director cuts, and we also have snippets that come out of that. So there are pieces to every history, every story that are in a documentary that there's probably at least 2-3 hours per person per interview that don't make it into the film because you just can't have that. But that's where the good stuff is, right? That's where the meaty stuff of the story is. And unfortunately, we can only take the pieces that obviously go towards the overall history that we need to convey so people comprehend it and can hopefully, beyond watching a film, go out and want to study it themselves. But the clips that we would put up there are things that didn't make it in, or that I would put into a director's cut. But even then, it would be a 10-hour film, so we can't do that.
Right. I know that must be really difficult, that process of editing.
It's tough. It's tough when you have to keep the storyline, and that there's something amazing that it's just not going to make it. So I try to get it out there for people to see, and I want them to have that 2, 3, 5 minute segment that they can digest and understand, have an appreciation for.
Very cool.
Now you have here opportunities to help preserve local history. What do you mean by opportunities? Because I'm getting people all the time to do preserve local history. So what is your take on that?
Sure. So, the Greetings from Florida documentary, I mean, it goes around the state of Florida to regional, local museums. And we're talking to people that know their history based on where they came from, right? I mean, Pensacola I talked to the gentleman who's the CEO of the Lighthouse Museum. And of course, he has a wealth of knowledge to talk on that history alone. So preserving that and keeping that, dare I say, this could be a testament to 50 years, 100 years from now. So when future historians look back, they can say, hey, this is where the history was. What in the study of history we call it histography, where history has changed through time based on interpretation and all that. We can understand where we are in 2026 and where we went to maybe in 2056. So we want to make sure that we get those people that are, well, living historians, if you will. I don't want to say living artifacts, but people that lived in a place for 50 plus years and really know what it was like before there was this development or that change or maybe a different direction in a local town. And that's what I want to make sure we get on camera and keep for oral history.
You said that World War II was kind of your specialty or favorite time period. So we'll talk about that now. Do you teach history at all, or you were a history teacher?
I was. I went up to work in district office now. I want to make sure all our students are safe and well. So I'm very privileged to be able to do that. But yes, I love teaching history and communicating those pieces of time to students of all ages. I worked as a middle school social studies teacher and then a high school teacher, and was able to communicate that. So we want to make sure that we get this any time period across to people in a different way than is just a paragraph in a textbook or nowadays on a tablet. So
how are you feeling that students today are reacting to learning history? You see a lot of these clips on TV or at schools, even Ivy League schools just cannot handle American history.
Yeah, it's a very deep question. History is not something that we are to politically alter. We cannot politicize it. We cannot change it. We shouldn't. And it's very difficult for us to understand what it was like for somebody in antebellum America, because we would like to say, oh, they were this or they were that, or they hated these people, or they did this. The problem is that we're not there. We did not live in that society. We did not understand it. And what we need to teach, what we need to understand from that is what it was like in that society to better comprehend the world for which those people lived. And if we can do that, then we can have a better understanding of history on all eras. My grandmother used to say to me, she misses the good old days, but I told her, Grandma, I mean, you had Hitler and Tojo and Mussolini. I'm like, the worst war in human history happened, right? So everything's perspective too. And you really have to appreciate that and understand what your perspective is. If you're a British civilian living in London in 1940, you have a way different understanding of World War II, for instance, than somebody living in Wisconsin. So these are very important facts to make sure people understand from that perspective. And I think that having the individual perspective is just as important as having the overall perspective.
So now, say you were asked to speak before a bunch of students. Let's start with students first. and you're going to be talking about a subject like the South during the war between the states, like your Battle of Gainesville there. But when you go in there, and this could even be for adults who might have a political agenda. So would be, you're in there now, how do I win these people to want to understand this history, even though it might be something that's not a popular history or something that may be a controversial history? How do you go in there, now you're standing in front of this audience, how do you get them to want to be interested in this and not, kind of turn it off?
Yeah, to open their minds.
Open their minds. That's exactly what I mean.
Sure. So, unfortunately, a lot of people that if they go into a history talk or lesson and they have a predetermined idea of what it is, they don't have open minds, right? They already have a predetermined idea of what happened. And that's unfortunate, because if you're not willing to accept new understandings and new truths, then that's a personal situation. That's a personal problem. And, honestly, I don't teach anything but what happened. If it's not factual, we can't teach it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if it's not on paper, if it's not what was written, if it's not what we see as evidence and indicated evidence, then we can't talk about it. That would be me making up stories. We're not here to do that, right? So, but yeah, when it comes to people, usually the biggest part of documentary filmmaking or telling any story in history is that you have to have empathy for the individuals at that time. If you don't understand their plight, what they went through, how they experienced things, it's very hard for us to make any judgment today, especially when we drive around in air-conditioned cars and get to have a nice cold drink. 150 years ago in Florida, you were lucky to have a horse, and it was hot. And you would ride
in bugs.
Yes, and you would probably die of some disease. Tampa incorporated in 1870s. I have to verify that, but not long after there, the good people of Tampa decided to dissolve their city because of all the plague and disease that was happening. They didn't, thank goodness, and that rapidly changed thanks to public health. But there's something to be learned there. There's something very important about public health and the advancement of humanity that we need to understand in the historical preservation and what we're trying to learn from this. And that's what I try to tap into with documentary filmmaking.
Okay.
Absolutely wonderful, because there's so many things, as a historian myself, a museum curator, almost 40 years at this, to try in recent years to bring an artifact, a statue, into a museum, trying to make people understand it's, for educational purposes, preservation purposes, and yet they take that negative attitude, an agenda that they have to erase that history. Do you see now maybe there is a turning point? Because for a few years recently, we've had this where people are kind of erasing, destroying, canceling our history. You see that there might be a resurgence in bringing American history, especially in light of America 250 this year.
Right. Yeah. The problem with understanding the word is sophomoric, right? If you only understand a little bit of something, you can make a very bad decision about it, and that goes for anything in life. So having people that want to take down a statue, for instance, because they don't agree with the history is problematic, right? Because then they don't agree with their own history, even if it's occurring now. Anything a second ago is now time and past.
Absolutely.
So we need to appreciate the time for which perhaps a statue represents. On the flip side of that, many statues that have been debated about were not put up in the time of the event for which they are trying to celebrate or honor. So there is a history to that statue too that has to be memorialized and understood. Otherwise, we just won't appreciate the whole history as what the event was. Say, example, the Civil War.
Man, I can't believe it, but our time is up. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to have to get him back.
Oh, yeah. He'll be rescheduled.
It's been great talking.
Everybody have a wonderful week. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye. Yeah.